So this evening I'm joined by motorcycle racer Tom Ward. So Tom, before we get into the motorbikes and your career and all that, how have you been finding lockdown over there in Canterbury?
It's not been too bad, to be honest. I didn't go straight. Well, obviously when lockdown first happened, my job they didn't. I carried on basically working for sort of about 4 or 5 weeks, and then my girlfriend stopped working. So she was at home, and then once basically where I work at Royal Enfield, they couldn't carry on working because we meant to have people in the workshop. So I couldn't carry on doing my normal job. So I basically just tried to turn into a professional cyclist because I was literally just had nothing else to do. So I was like, I'm really into cycling as it is, and I was literally just going out cycling every day. I was doing like probably about probably about 150, 200 miles a week or something. And it was good, like good fitness wise. But after probably 6 weeks, I get bored of things really quick. So after about 6 weeks, I was like, oh no, I've had enough of that now. I need to move on.
Were you doing it through the television? I think I seen it on your Instagram. Were you doing that thing on the?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it's like typical like races getting too competitive, because we did this thing. We said about doing this thing for charity to cycle up Everest on this like training platform called Zwift, where you put like a bike on a turbo train, and then we rode up like a virtual Everest, and we all did it. We were meant to be doing it for charity, and the night before, like me and all the other boys who were doing it, then turned into like this massive competition. And it went from being like like quite a good thing to do, and hopefully wasn't going to be too hard. It's going to take about 12 hours, and then turned into this sort of savage competition with all of us going flat out. It was horrendous.
So moving on, I suppose, from your cycling career there that you seem to have had a good spell of during the lockdown. Well, actually, I'm saying moving on, but we're actually going backwards. How did you sort of get involved in motorbikes? Like, was it in your family, or did you kind of just fall into it?
Well, I didn't like. My dad's always been into motorbikes, but never. He didn't get a motorbike license until he was older. So he always was like really fond of racing and stuff, and we always used to watch it. But I got a motorbike when I was, me and my brother got a motorbike when I was about 5, just to sort of like bugger about in the garden on. And then my dad actually entered a competition into, the Motorcycle News magazine. There was a competition to win a mini moto, and the question was, how fast does a mini moto go? It was like the answers were 37 mile an hour, 80 mile an hour, 120. So my dad sent in the answer on a mud guard, and me and my brother won this. He won this mini moto for me and my brother, and we used to ride it around like the car park, like locally to where we were, and then like the police would come and then be like, yeah, you can't do that. So we eventually went to like a go-kart track and started racing. So it's a bit of a weird one. We don't have really any relationship with like, or it's not so much in the family. It's just kind of started.
So then I suppose from there, I suppose I think Chrissy Rouse said he did the same. But the Aprilia Super Teens Championship that takes place in England, you kind of from that sort of car park mini moto went on to this. So how did that kind of come around, like getting into that particular championship?
So I started. It was me and my brother. So I've got an older brother called Sam, who's 3.5, 4 years older than me, and he basically was the good one. So when it used to be people like Danny Webb, Scott Redding, who's the other one, Danny Kent, my brother used to like race against them and like was like really good, but he would just like either do really well or like crash. And then he got to sort of like an age of probably about like 14, probably when girls came around, and he was just like, oh, I'm not really interested in this anymore. And I was like shit, I was absolutely terrible at riding. Like I don't even know why my dad like took me along. But then when he stopped, then my dad was like, oh, do you want to carry on going? Probably half hoping I was going to stop. But then I was like, oh no, I do really enjoy it. So we carried on doing it. And I think because my brother wasn't in it anymore, I kind of like stepped my game up. And then I went on to 50cc and a 70cc, and then all of a sudden like started winning races, and sort of even my dad was like, bloody hell, weren't really kind of expecting this. So the next kind of natural progression from go-kart tracks to like a bigger bike would be like the 125, like the Aprilia Super Team bike. So I started that in 2009, I think it was. My first year was actually when Chrissy did it as well, and I did Bemsey, and I think I come third in the rookie class in the first year or something. So it wasn't like amazing, but it just seemed to be one of those things that whenever I stepped up to another class, I would then sort of beat all the people who I was battling against the year before.
And then I always wondered, because is that class like the previous super teams, is that sort of, what would the rules be like in that, you know, in comparison to say British Super or like the British Championship? Like, is there kind of are they similar, or is it more lenient?
Yeah, so they've got like you could run different tires and stuff. So there was actually two classes of it. The original Aprilia Super Teams came from BEMSI, which is BMCRC, the British Motorcycle Racing Club, and then it moved to Thundersport, and then I think Ian Newton ran it. So it was like the official Aprilia Super Teams was run by Thundersport, but we had one in BEMSI. So a lot of people like would come from the Thundersport Championship and then racing the BEMSI one as well, and vice versa. But like it's hilarious now because when you think back to it, and there's like ex racers, dads and stuff who were like, obviously, if I look back on it now, if I had a kid and I was in it, like obviously they like tune the fuck out the bikes and stuff, so they're like absolutely rapid. But like me and my dad didn't have a clue. Like I used to run the power valve the wrong way around for half the year, and
Oh,
it's just so funny thinking back. 'Cause you're like, obviously there were so many people like bending the rules and stuff, but because it's like little kiddie racing, it's not,
yeah.
like BSB, it's real tight with the technical regulation. But with that, it's just like people running Pro Boost and bigger cylinders and stuff like that. It's quite funny.
And so then 2015 was your full first season in the Superstock 600 at the BSB. So I suppose going into this, like, did you have any sort of expectations, or like what was the mindset, I suppose, going into your first year on track?
I kind of It's a weird one because I went away and like lived in, well, I say I lived in France. I went and did like a ski season thing over the 2014-15. So I went away for like about 4 5 months, I think it was. And I kind of went away then and I really realized I was like, I absolutely love racing. I've got such good opportunity here. So I'd had a good couple of results and stuff, but I obviously knew with motorbike racing, it's all about having the money, and like you've got to be able to have the backing, the bike, all that kind of stuff. So the beginning part, I had an old bike, and halfway through, I got a better bike. But my expectation was to kind of, you know what I mean, get towards the top five and stuff like that. But it's kind of unrealistic when you've got if you haven't got the package. If you've got the package behind you, then it obviously makes your life a lot easier. And as me and my dad kind of found out, it's all about, there's so much you learn, and if you've got experience like a dad who knows about racing and you've got the inside information or know the right contacts, it makes the rider's life so much easier. So I kind of had a good expectation for myself, but I wasn't expecting to go out and be winning races or what have you.
So then, I suppose going on from that, then you say you didn't think you were going to be a winning racer, but then of course 2016 or 16 or 17, 16, you moved up to the Super Sport on aboard a Yamaha R6, and then of course into the Superstock 1000 then in the following years. I suppose then kind of progressing on into that Superstock 1000 class, did you kind of, when you say there you never thought you were going to be a winning racer, looking back then when you were actually there, say in 2017, 18, what it must have given you kind of a great lift, like knowing that, geez, I'm after actually doing that, after saying, you know, it wasn't even in your wildest dreams, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that I never really had, I've probably always been a little bit on the side of never really sort of had massive amount of self-belief, like because you've come from, not saying that you come from not, like I had really good opportunities and stuff, but experience is the biggest thing in this game, and having the time, the money and experience, and that's just something which I kind of learned myself, and like what my dad learned over the years. So it was always, I'd always see people like Danny Buchan, who was sort of like a couple of years ahead of me, and when I was in Bemsey, and you'd be like, oh, look how well he's doing, he's in British Championships. So you do kind of get to a point where you are going, wow, this is really cool, I'm in British Championships. But I've always been like, you always want the next step, and you're always looking kind of like, now I've got a third place, it's like now I know I can win. now I can win. I want to win a championship. It's like
Mm.
you're always looking for that next step. I've never really ever been fully satisfied with kind of your results, because unless you're winning championships, then I think you can be satisfied then.
And then you just said there, getting that third place. Like, I think it was in 2019 in the Superstock championship or whatever, and you got the third place podium. I suppose getting that, did it give you that like boost of confidence that you needed to really believe, I suppose, that you can achieve in the sport?
Yeah, definitely. In 16, when I got on the podium at the end of 2015, and that gave me a load of confidence. And then I rode with a lot of confidence in 16. And then I kind of proved to myself I had the ability to do it. And then you've obviously got to have all the other boxes ticked. So in 19 was difficult because I was like a privateer and doing it myself and doing all like my own data login, and I was going to the people at KTech and like pestering them for help, and like I was kind of like that annoying person who I was just so intent on getting it right and like almost obsessed with getting it right. So that result at the end of the year, even though like when I come in off the bike, I was so ecstatic just because of the result. Like it wasn't even like a proper third place. Like,
Yeah.
but I know if I had like the bike was a little bit better or whatever, like all them excuses, but it was so good to just have that result for all the hard work that you put in just to get that was like just such a good feeling. Yeah, 100%, 100%.
So then, obviously, 2020 has been a little bit of a washout for everyone, I suppose. And it's just, I suppose everyone's just glad that BSB was able to get a couple of rounds in or whatever. But so this year, you're meant to be riding again in the Superstock 1000 Championship, but obviously your team withdrew. And then, of course, we've seen the announcement that you're now riding in the Superbike team. Is it Bike Devil Kawasaki? Is that who you're riding for?
That's it, yeah.
Placing Gino Ria. So, what's that like? You obviously didn't think that was going to be coming around this year.
No, it's been a bit of a weird year. Obviously, it's been a weird year for everyone with all the circumstances that have gone on. But it's kind of like it was a massive thing to be riding for like a official Team Green Kawasaki team, and especially with MSS because they've got such a good reputation. And obviously with Chrissy being a teammate, and like we went out to test in Spain, and it was like a really good, like it was a really positive test, even though it was like the first one. There were so many positives to take from it, and you're kind of thinking this could be a really, really good year to, you know what I mean, for us both to challenge for the title. Well, I mean, you look at Chrissy, he's in the lead, he's in the obviously leading the championship. Yeah. So it was like a massive thing, and then we kind of knew before it had all happened that there was a big title sponsor pulling out, and for the guys who are running the team, it was unfair on them because wasn't them who it was out of their control that we basically lost this sponsorship and we couldn't go racing. So it was such a kick in the teeth. And obviously during that lockdown period, you're training like mad. You're everything in racing, your life is just you eat, sleep and breathe it. So to not really know what you're going to be doing, and then next thing you know, you might not even be racing, was like just like horrendous. But then I was doing like a lot of motocross and stuff, and I actually ended up like having quite a bad crash, and I like snapped my collarbone and got a compression fracture in my back, and I was like, oh, you cannot even like script this for 2020. I was like, and then I was kind of like at the same time I was like, at least I didn't have a ride, like at least the ride had kind of like stopped, and then yeah, out of the blue, just kind of got, I was kind of like, no, I wasn't at all at rock bottom because I was kind of like looking forward to the next year, and I had plans to get out my own bike this year. But then when I got a call from Dave Tyson about riding the superbike, I had always said I wouldn't want to go to superbike until I like consistently winning races in stock 1000, because then I think people will be looking at you and you're a lot more likely to get like a PBM ride, or like a top team ride where you can go, right, I can go into it to compete at the highest level. And then I sort of said to Dave Tyson, like, it's really cool that you've asked me to ride, but I almost feel like I'm not ready. But I just kind of turned around and I sort of had to think to myself and sort of spoke to closest people to me and stuff and said, right, it's either not ride or ride this superbike, and all I can look at it as is just go out and just gain as much experience as possible and sort of learn as much. So that's the kind of way I looked at it.
So I suppose leading on from that, I know as we have just said, like 20, we don't really know what the future will bring, and with the way everything has gone this year. But what do you have any sort of plans for next year, or what do you think? Can you just kind of take it as it comes?
Yeah, just it depends, because I think there's still, as it stands, the ride with MSS was meant to stand for 2021, but again, I don't know what like kind of position that they're in. Like again, financially, they're going to need to have like a big sponsor and stuff, and with the whole COVID thing, you just kind of think, who the hell is going to want to come on board and sponsor? But I think all I can do at the minute is just concentrate on. I've got this. It's really difficult because with this bike I'm on at the minute, I genuinely feel there's so much potential, and like the last round was a bit of a washout due to just like different things. The round before we had the tyre problem, but like kind of showed real good potential. The round before was the first time I'd ever ridden it, so I've only been on the bike 3 times. So there's like,
and test that bike. No, you probably just
literally just went straight on. I think I'd ridden a bike once before in like 6 months, and then jumped straight onto Superbike. So it was like a real baptism of fire, but probably the best way you could have like gone into it. So I come away from the last round really frustrated, just because it's like if I didn't feel like the bike had any potential, and the team was like, you know what I mean, it's easier to walk away from, because you kind of go, actually, it's a bit of a turd, I can't do anything on it. But the bike is really good, and the people who are working on it are really good. It's just been like all these little things happening, and I'm so eager to like kind of ride it to how I know I can ride it. So it's kind of like I need to kind of that's why this round coming up, and just take a step back and just concentrate on riding a bike and enjoying riding a bike. And with all the other bits in place, obviously you know what it's like, all your stars have got to align at some point for it to work. But the potential that is definitely there, 100%.
Well, Tom, I wish you the very best of luck for the remainder of the season, and continue doing the good work and learning on the Superbike. And sure, hopefully we'll see you back either in the Superbike or Superstock with the MSS team next year. So yeah, until then, enjoy the rest of the BSB season and stay safe and well.
Thank you very much. Cheers for that.